Hello there. So we've been busy this morning. We did something yesterday too. So we ripped out all the fence. We got 3 corners down there and got 2 more down there. We got all the old fence ripped out, all the old wooden posts, some of the steel T-posts that we had put in over the years. It was an old 4-barb fence. 2 of those barbs were gone. They were so old that you couldn't even bend them anymore. They just snap. So the other 2 were older. They need to be replaced, and we're going to put in all new Stay Tough web wire fence. So we really like that stuff. You can use about half the amount of posts, and it does a really good job for us. We've been really happy with it. If you can keep feeders in after you wean them, that's a good fence. So we're going to use the new post driver today. We're going to put it to work. We're going to see how she does. So yeah, we're going to see how things go today. See how things work. We've got it all on the trailer. We've got everything's on the trailer, ready to go. So as you can see, there's a pile of posts we've ripped out. And we've got the, not the most efficient solution, but we used it anyway. We wrapped the wire up around my postal auger. I'll have to cut it off later, but I figured that was easier than trying to wrap 4 barbs up by hand over a long distance. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to have to make an actual wire wrapper. I can't find one the way I want. If anyone knows of somebody that makes one, let me know. But I'd like one that'll wrap up 48-inch tall web wire, because depending on what we do with the pins around here depends on the type of wire we use. But we're going back to a lot of web wire fence, because we found that Stay Tough web wire and we've been really impressed with it, and so that's what we're using a lot of anymore. So we're going back to a web wire. I would like that to be about 5-6 foot long, so that it could be done. I think I'm going to make one myself, but if someone knows of one that's already pre-made, let me know. I'm kind of curious on what it'll cost me to buy one. I know roughly what it takes to build one, but for the time being, that's what we did. Not the most efficient or elegant solution, but that's what we did. We'll just have to cut it off later. I'll just use the grinder and cut it off with a wire wheel. It'll be all right. I guess not a wire wheel, cut off wheel. So, but that's what we did, and we're ready to go. So we got the trailer all put together and got all the stuff on the trailer yesterday, and we started on the fence yesterday. But today we're gonna get it done. I'm gonna try to finish it up today, get it all done. We're gonna use the new post driver. So, being an elegant solution, you're also gonna see my brother-in-law today. He may be the one wearing the camera. We'll see. Because I think him wearing it's gonna give you a better angle on it than me sitting in the skid steer. If I can talk my wife into it, I may have her handle the camera. Big if. Alright, so we're just starting to use this post driver. And we did this in August. This is now December that I'm starting to post this video. Things have been a little slow. I had to get a new computer, but we're making it work. I've got the video of me and my brother building that computer coming before long. Me and him are going to edit it. But this post driver worked pretty good. It had a little bit of a learning curve to it. You had to be a little slow right there. We bent a post. So, and when I say bent it, I mean bent it in a C. I mean, it wasn't even hard. So, we bent it fast, super fast. But it worked really good. I was really surprised. This whole setup worked very well. We were able to carry several posts. We run out a little bit later, but boy, did it drive me in the ground. When we first started, I told my brother-in-law, I was like, I don't even know if I need this post driver. I said, this skid steer just weighs enough. I'm just shoving them in the ground. But the second we got towards the top of the hill, that ended pretty quick. And I started having to use the post driver. But we got it done. We got it used up, and some of these ones down here later, it gets back into soft dirt and didn't really even need the post driver then. We drove all these posts you're going to see. We drove them in less than 30 minutes. I didn't time it, but it worked very, very well once I got used to operating it from the skid steer. And we were able to, with the setup we have here, we were able to carry those posts with us. And man, that made it easy. I know Caden enjoyed it. We didn't have to go through and lay all the posts out and then, pick them up off the ground. He could just pick one up, flip it, and go about it. But on this fence, I went ahead and put in the normal amount of posts. I don't want to have to go back through and redo this fence ever again. I don't like having to go back and redo things. You want to talk about something that drives me crazy? That's not doing it right the first time, because I hate having. I've got enough stuff to do as it is. The last thing I need to do is go back and redo stuff. This fence up here, you'll see a little bit later in the video, we used the dozer, and the dozer pushed out several large trees on the other side of the fence. There's a gate right in the middle of this fence where a creek grows through, and we just leave that gate in there. If I need to chase cattle back and forth through it, I can. There's also a water tank down here that gets fed from the bottom of the pond for the cattle, and that allows water to be in the hayfield. Without that water tank, there is no water in that hayfield. Never did really like that, but there's not really a good place for a pond or anything like that. So had to be kind of careful with how you drove the skid steer, and sometimes you just can't help it. But between the vibration of the skid steer and the vibration of the post driver, the posts fall off the holder. But we also use that holder also unravels our web wire for us, and the barbed wire if we wanted to. Normally with the barbed wire though, we've got an old lawnmower handle with some old discs off of an actual disc that you pull behind the tractor, and that's normally what we use for barbed wire. With web wire, it's just faster and easier because you just unroll in one roll anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But you can see how we put web wire on this thing. It works pretty good. I mean, it's not the fanciest thing by any means, but it works very well. We just welded a piece of pipe onto an old hay spike that a neighbor had. Me and a neighbor actually built that thing. And then the top of it, I don't know if you could tell, but the top of that, what was holding the actual web wire on, is just the center out of my wheel rake, off one of the wheels on the wheel rake. It works pretty well. It holds it on there, and it's tapered towards the edges, and so it works really, really well for us. Getting this fence held up. I'd actually never pulled web wire without my dad. Normally, I'm the one running up and down the fence checking if it's tight or not. So a little later on, we didn't videotape it, but me and my dad actually pulled this with the skid steer. We built our own fence puller for web wire. Literally, all it is a 2x4x8 with 4 bolts in it, and that's how we pull web wire. It needs to be adapted. We need to go to a 2x6x10 or 12 and cut that thing in half and put more bolts in it, because right now our 2x4x8 that's been cut in half, it does not grab the top and the bottom wire at the same time, and so we just don't feel like it gets quite as good a pull as we'd like to see it, but we still get a good pull. We've never had a problem with the pull. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we actually had to go back through and flip this fence. The FedEx truck that drove by right there in the video, he was actually delivering my Ford Pro Series Charger. So he actually, later, I don't know if it shows it in the video or not, he actually had to come back to get my signature for it. So he just met me out there in the field. Yep. Right here is where we're discussing the fence is upside down. We got to go back through and flip it. Fun. We did the exact same thing on the other side of the fence. I don't know why we made that mistake twice, but we sure enough did. This is where I went and signed for the package. Caden's finishing up putting those holders in there so that we can go ahead and stretch the fence from there on out. I bought some more of that Stay Tough web wire fence. except this time I got bigger rolls so it'll actually go further. We don't have to splice it near as much. I think we're getting pretty close to the end of this video. I'll come back a little bit later and do a voiceover on the rest of it. Alrighty, here's drone footage. That way you guys can all see kind of what I was talking about and how the fence lays. At this point in the video, this is, I think, a week or two later. Me and Dad had already stretched this fence. We got it tight and it's done. We shoved all this out. There was a few small trees in here. When we shoved this fence out, we just shoved it out with a skid steer. It was just easier getting the dozer out at the time. That pile of posts is still there in December. I need to go get them. Actually, kind of forgot about them. I've got heifers in that pen, but they all come up and eat every day, so I never go check the field. But right here is that gate I was talking about. You can see that concrete feeder. I guess it was not a feeder. That concrete waterer there, where we drain water out of the bottom of the pond to put water in this field. There's Caden. I went to the house to grab something, and I decided to get the drone out and take a quick video of it. So he took a little break. So, but right here, right up here along the fence line where the brush is, that's where we did all the dozing. You can see the dozer there. Still getting used to driving the drone. Actually, as of right now, I have wrecked the drone. It's okay. I don't see anything wrong with it, but something's wrong with the gimbal and it will not allow it to take off. So I'm going to have to send it in and get it repaired. I don't know what happened, but everything turns on like it's supposed to. Everything seems to work like it's supposed to, but it keeps telling me the gimbal data is not recognized. So I guess it messed up the gimbal when I wrecked it. I was playing around with it. I got a little cocky, is what I did, and I put it in sport mode, which shuts off all the safety stuff on the drone so it doesn't wreck into a tree. And I got a little low on battery, and I drove it into a tree. Luckily, it was only about 5 foot off the ground when it hit the tree limb in the yard, but I didn't think it messed it up, but I guess it did. I was hoping that updating it and stuff like that would go ahead and fix it, but it didn't. Just showing where the fence went. It went from basically from our property against the railroad all the way down to the public road. Yeah, right there's that gate in the middle. We did not have the wire stretched at this point. At this point now, it is stretched and everything's done with it. All we got to do is whenever spring comes along, all I got to do is go down there and put some cattle panels in that gate, and I can separate them, separate the fields. We have not been able to separate those fields for quite a while. There's the shadow for the drone on the ground. Good old green truck. We actually left that trailer out in the field that night, and we came back to it a couple weeks later when we finished up the fence. Yeah, this is where it was in sport mode. Playing around with him. But we actually left that trailer out in the field for a couple weeks, and when we came back to it, clips, nothing sharp, thankfully, but clips and screwdrivers and all kinds of stuff were literally scattered all the way around it. I never thought that the heifers would mess with it like that. I guess they just got bored and curious, and I don't know how they scattered them like they did, but I mean, it was about a